All right, transgenerational trauma can be caused by many different traumatic experiences. Some of these are extreme poverty, a sudden or violent death of a family member, a crime against a family member, a parent or other family member dispatched to go to war, an assault or torture of a family member. I think another thing could probably be discrimination. This can in turn affect the family, that there is a greater loss of identity, purpose, and many meaning, and that can have a impact on multiple generations, maybe even normalizing the trauma. Um, families who experience transgenerational trauma may raise children to be more cautious and distrusting of the dominant culture, because family members were taught the same thing, um, and it may raise them to be more conservative or cautious. Next is the type of trauma that's happened to LGBTQ member. So they face a lot of relational and interpersonal trauma. This type of trauma can look like bullying, harassment, abuse, physical, emotional, or psychological threats of violence, perpetration of violence, rejection, and destruction of healthy attachment in significant relationships. So yeah, I mean, it could like just even be like their family members disowning them, and that is traumatic. That would be very traumatic for them. Um, and yeah, I mean, like this just puts them um, at a higher risk for um, abuse, and I think especially in the kind of political climate we're in right now, there's a lot of fear of um, you know LGBTQ people, and there's also there's workplace discrimination as well that they can experience. Um, and then so the last thing is, give me one second. It is to describe the idea of trauma affected communities. What is the difference between individual trauma and community trauma? Well, I think I would describe the idea of trauma affected communities as like entire communities, and that could be divided, I think, by area in like a city or town. It could be divided by like race. It could be culture. I think it could be um, divided by many different things. Um, and I think that trauma affected communities are probably that face ongoing discrimination, for instance, um, are a lot more cautious and of the dominant culture. Um, I think it's entire communities that have been affected by some kind of traumatic event. And then what is the difference between individual trauma and community trauma? Well, I'm gonna get into that. Use an example here. So I think George Floyd, for instance, the death of George Floyd. That could be that. I'm sure that was an individual trauma for his family members. They were affected by his death, and the way that he died had an effect on them, and then the way they view police. I'm sure that was altered. And I think the community trauma is, just the African American community as a whole. Um, there's a lot of people rioting, a lot of people upset, and I think that was an event that affected a mass amount of people, like huge amount of people, and they were, there's a whole group of people that became even more cautious of just cautious of the government and or not government but police. um yeah, and I think that would be the difference between individual and community, like it's the way one event affects an individual versus how that event, if it's a large enough scale, event affects an entire community.